Welcome to Week 2, Part 3 of the presentation. When two letters touch, which are called ligatures, in a font, they may cause you to adjust the spaces and letters around them. This is where kerning would come into play to kind of help separate them a little bit. It is a judgment call by the graphic artist. If the ligatures puts additional space between the letters, the space may need to be added to the letters around it. The rule to follow when working with sub and superscript is to keep the spacing around them consistent with the rest of the words and letters. This helps continue the optical rhythm so that when the viewer's reading everything, they can flow over each letter smoothly because there's an even amount of space. All of these special rules are part of typesetting. They may seem arbitrary, but the job of the designer is to produce a quality visual experience for the reader. Since type is usually the dominating feature in a publication, all aspects of the type must be regulated, including symbols, small caps, and numerals. InDesign will automatically hyphenate sentences using the default settings. Designers will have restrictions regarding how much adjusting they can do to the hyphenated options. A major restriction is having too much type and too little room to fit on it. Within these restrictions, the graphic artist should tweak hyphenation to reduce the amount of hyphens in a particular paragraph. Do not chop off words, leaving 3 letters or less at the end or the beginning of a paragraph line. Alignment of paragraphs in a majority of publications is even on the left side, which they call that alignment flush left, and then uneven on the right side, which gives you a ragged right. But again, the goal is to try to keep the rags to a minimal. Of course, there's going to be some, but you just don't want to have extreme sets of rags. If the publication calls for columns to be even on both sides, then you have to choose the justification alignment. Again, using that, you are going to create uneven spaces between the words that could create negative readability for the viewer, but it could overall help align those columns in a nice, clean way to fit a lot of content on the page. So the problem with justified text is that it is spread out unevenly by leaving varying amounts of space between words and letters. Then the designer has to make some sort of adjustment to avoid the rivers or gaps while avoiding letters getting too close to each other and creating those dark spots. The graphic artist will always be working with deadlines. It seems overwhelming to follow all these text rules when trying to quickly crank out a publication. The truth is, once these guidelines are used a few times, they will become like second nature, and you'll be faster at checking through these. You'll know exactly what to look for, and the tools in InDesign are going to be easier to find and be able to adjust in a shorter amount of time. The truth is, once these guidelines are used a few times, they become second nature. Don't forget, a drop cap is a large letter at the beginning of a paragraph, and usually at the very beginning of the article and only used there once. It takes up about 3 or more lines below it. Lead lines are a few words at the beginning of the paragraph, slightly larger than the rest of the paragraph type size, mainly because it might be a phrase to kind of help get the audience, the viewer interested so that they can then continue to read that article. Widows and orphans. Always watch for widows and orphans. Widows are a single word at the end of a paragraph hanging out on its own line. You want to try to eliminate that. Orphans occur when the last line of a paragraph appears by itself at the top of a column. And that just it separates those too much to where it doesn't even almost look like it's a part of that paragraph. So you want to try to eliminate widows and orphans. Usually the spacing, typed differently, or adjusting the column length slightly can eliminate those widows and orphans when they occur. Try a few of those things to see if you can adjust it without changing the overall column structure too much. Here's some good examples of good and bad of type design. In this brochure, which is purposely blurred to prevent recognition, the left side of the design has no use of bold type sizes or fonts to create subheads or emphasis. There is a box around the heading that is meant to do this. The problem is the bulleted text in the middle, although it runs along the shape in the background, the curved left edge of the bullets make it very hard to read and follow. Our eyes are not accustomed to moving down and going left while reading. This brochure is more business-oriented than the previous and follows each area of trifold with one column of type. The subheadings are emphasized with boldness, and there is a variety of fonts used, perhaps too many on the larger phrases. The photographs and graphics are well composed in accordance with the paragraphs of type. This magazine spread used a large illustration and bold headlines on the left to create a powerful layout. The colors are vibrant and match the theme of the story. There is one column on the left page that is flush right and ragged left. This mirrors the right page that has the paragraph blocks left aligned and ragged right. The right side uses a classic 3-column format with the sidebar separated by a rectangular border. The information inside is related to the story, but not directly.